I've got him. I think you need to send me the finished version with the visuals, because she's a little bit hard to understand. But wow, that was pretty. Yeah. You know what I actually wanted to play for today is Sad World. Do you mind if I play Sad World?
Not at all.
All right, everyone. We're just.
Actually, do you have the visual with that? I can send it to you.
No, I have it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, I've stolen your intellectual property. Don't worry.
So, good morning, Skylar Thomas of Watching Humans and Jack Gashite of Tree Spirit Project. We're doing a show about how farmers, Skylar puts it his way, the way I like to put it with our different styles, is how much farmers love their animals, how much they love their cows, and we're going to discuss it and play some music.
Honestly, Jack, if we're going to be respectful, let's have a moment of silence for all the rapists that Marin County is losing.
Oh,
we're mourning, Jack. Show some respect.
Sorry, please.
Marin County is a darker place with fewer rapists. Okay, and here we go.
And I find it kind of drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The cream for which I'm dying is the best you've ever had. I find it hard to sell you, I find it hard to make. For mothers at the dairy, it's a very, very sad world. Sad world. Babies waiting for the day they feel good. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Don't live a life that every child should, taken from us, ignore our faults. Boys without milk, they are very nervous. No use for them, abuse for them. Mr. Farmer, tell me, where's my baby? Looks right through me, looks right through me. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The cream for which I'm dying is the best you've ever had. I find it hard to sell you, I find it hard to make. For mothers at the dairy, it's a very, very sad world. Sad world. Imagine our world. Mad world.
Wow, Jack. Anyway, we have a little bit less of that in Marin County, and that sucks. That's a real tragedy.
So for context, if I may, Mr. Schuyler, and thanks for showing that, and you're not stealing my intellectual property. I appreciate your sharing it. Those things are not getting enough views because I haven't been promoting them the way you're supposed to. So that's an original song. Excuse me, that's a song called Mad World, which is not original, but adapted. I rewrote the lyrics and hired a real person, not AI, to sing a version of that with just a few word changes and to show those pictures from actual dairies, stylized so I can use the footage. And it really, it's interesting how pictures and music and a different idea can get people to see something, and how cows, these sweet, big, pasture puppies, I call them often, are treated like objects, cogs in a machine. I mean, literally a machine to produce milk, and it's taking mother's milk from an animal and feeding it to our, adults, not just our children. I mean, it's really Orwellian and horrific. The only reason we don't see it is because we're all raised that way and it becomes normalized. But morning, Skylar.
Good morning. We'll circle back to that video because it's, what a great song to choose, because that's powerful. But we humans, being superior and sophisticated, aren't worried about compassion. We're worried about money. So I would like to share some money information for people. And as you often point out, I harp on the idea that this is a sustainable industry. We could talk about that all day. I'm going to share a little bit of information for a research project I did. 50% of Marin's land is devoted to agriculture. The average farm there is 588 acres. Now imagine whatever you do in life, you have 588 acres to produce something, to make your living, to create a product. Okay, so that's how much of Marin is being used. Marin County's gross domestic product annually is 32 billion with a B. Agriculture in Marin County, the GDP, 97 million with an M. Dairy itself is 35 million. 97 million is 0.3% of 32 billion. 35 million is 0.1% of 32 billion. You're using 50% of Marin County for 0.3% of the GDP. That's dumb. Dumb. And it just makes it maddening that the industry itself is also evil and kills the planet and uses up all the water and has billions of dollars in government subsidies coming just to keep it afloat. Only so at the end of the year, those same farmers can dump millions of gallons of milk that didn't get purchased. But guess what? The industry stays alive because the taxpayers keep making up for all of that with more subsidies. And yet all we're hearing from journalists, oh God, it's a sad day. It's a sad day that a national park, we're not even talking about taking people's private land. We're talking about a national park, a jewel on the coast, is not going to get raped and pillaged by private profiteers. In some of it, a lot of them still aren't leaving.
PhotoWix made a comment here. I don't know who that is. It is so disingenuous for ranchers to craft this compassionate narrative about caring for animals when the sole purpose is to slaughter and confine. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the crux of it right there. It's propaganda and it's a false narrative, or lies, aka lies. And it's these days, especially, I mean, we see it on the national and international stage out of DC, that what you say being completely false is more important or more powerful and effective oftentimes than the truth if you just keep repeating it. Or as the other way to put it is, a lie repeated often enough becomes the truth. And that's certainly true with the facts you just showed there about how incredibly inefficient it is to raise cows for milk or for beef or for any use on huge amounts of Marin County land and using huge amounts of Marin County water. But people don't know that. They don't know that.
Light occult revival, that milk is toxic to the river ecosystems as well. It's like, exactly. Not only are they dumping and wasting stuff that was expensive to produce, but that's littering as far as I'm concerned. And that's not what's supposed to be in the water, and that's not what's supposed to be on the soil. But fuck it. They abuse the land in the production of it. Why not abuse the land getting rid of it? And let's circle back to how sad it is that this proud tradition might come to an end in a couple of spots. Hey, everyone, if you're that sad, just go right outside of the park or stand in the park and look east, because you can see all of the dairy destruction across Marin County. You're not going to have a problem finding any. If you desperately need to see land being abused and babies being abused and your tax dollars being sucked up and dead, thistle-filled, barbed wire, Measure A land that you paid for being used for private profit, just open your eyes and turn your head.
Well, it's especially challenging this time of year when there's it's been raining this week and the fields are green. I went for a walk yesterday. I can't run with a sprained ankle, but I went for a walk out in the greenery, and gosh, it's what I was taught when I moved here from New York. Oh, the rolling green hills of Marin County in the Bay Area, like Ireland. And you don't know it. I didn't know any better. I didn't know anybody for many years until I want to give yet another shout out, as I do pretty much every show, for your film, The Shame of Point Reyes, which is available. Is that still free online on YouTube, Skylar?
I moved it into the members section because I'm coming out with the updated miniseries of it.
Okay. In any case, give the guy $5 or $10 and watch The Shame of Point Reyes. And it's a big education about Point Reyes Seashore. It's why I got involved in the campaign 5 years ago. And even just to teach, it's a great way to just see the land for what it is versus for what we were told and the stories about it. Instead of the rolling green hills of Ireland, it's land that is destroyed, has been destroyed for over a century by these historic, generational, multi-generational family, small, organic certified beef and dairy farms. They have destroyed the natural landscape, which is what these industries do. And yet, of course, if you need to think about that and reprogram your conditioning, your mind.
PhotoWix, thank you for that comment, because it is an important one. And I actually looked into this because, the local thing is one of the many excuses people use to justify this horror, which is a really, really silly reason to justify something this horrific. But all that dairy milk is sent to Sonoma mega processing plant that is sent around nationwide. So the local food thing is kind of silly. I also looked into when I commute on Highway 80, which is just an agricultural nightmare. There's California producers. And I looked into California producers, and they confirmed that they indeed do also get some of their stuff from Clover and Strauss, etc., out of Marin. So yeah, people, if you think that like the people living in Point Reyes Station and Inverness Station are now going to die because a couple of Point Reyes farmers aren't producing food anymore, do what I've done. Have the decency to do what I've done and walk into the stores and see what's for sale there and see if in fact it is 100% local food. It's actually a very small percentage of local food.
Doesn't contribute to the local economy, uses far too much water. Oh, and by the way, just let me ratchet back. Even when you're driving on Highway 80, as you say, here in Northern California, and see all the cows producing dairy and for their flesh, their meat called beef, it is, as you've said before, an incredibly, incredibly inefficient way to raise food for human consumption. Even if you can set aside, and we won't today, the cruelty of it, but it's an unnecessary, staggeringly inefficient way to produce calories, not especially healthy, arguably unhealthy for a lot of people, and a luxury food that's only made affordable by huge, hidden, unspoken of government subsidies. So it's a colossal catastrophe and a scam on so many levels. You can do a whole show on it.
There's a lyric. It's probably not even the lyric that people would think that would grab me, but one that grabbed me from the piece I just showed of yours is my cream is the best you've ever had. And the reason it grabbed me is I was imagining how many people would actually use that as a legitimate argument. It's like, see, even you guys are admitting how good the dairy product is. Like, an animal's suffering does not justify the best thing you've tasted in your life. Okay? You could like eat something that gives you an orgasm, and it does not justify how it was produced. And the superior species prioritizing entertaining their taste buds. We are the wrong species to be in fucking charge if that's how we're going to treat other creatures for our taste buds. Oh, and by the way, it's poison. It's using up all of our water and poisoning the land and eating up your tax dollars. And these people have other businesses and other ranches outside. Now, I wanted to really pick on Kevin Lunny, but he's actually a beef rancher. But he doesn't even have the historic excuse. He's not even historic. He's an entrepreneur. He's an opportunity seeker. And he's found his way into getting his own piece of that highly subsidized land. And he also had the oyster farm, which was an incredible source of pollution at Drake's Estero. And then he left behind $4 million worth of his equipment that once again became the problem of other people. It's amazing how ranchers never have to clean up their own messes. I'm not sure how we always have to fit the bill for that. It's a little bit astonishing. But I'm going to do an entire piece on Lunny because he also has a gravel business and a paving business. And that means that he extracts from the planet again. He has a quarry, which basically means you're mining. And once again, you're raping Mother Earth in order to make some more money. And he, amongst others, got $750 million from the state of California to help them launch their composting business, which means, hey, let's give you money to continue to produce something that you shouldn't be producing, but we'll even give you, not only should you keep producing it, we're going to give you another way to make money off of it. But hey, everyone, feel bad for those people. I bet you Kevin Lunny is looking for his next meal right now. I bet you he and his family are really struggling.
Okay, so Skylar, let's get to it. Let's do this publicly because it'll be fun for the audience. I have a boner to pick with you, and that's your use of the word rape. So they're rape. You say they rape the land and they rape the animals and rape. You're just mad for that word. And I just object because I don't believe that they get sexual pleasure from fisting a cow and implanting semen inside the female bull, the female cow, after getting the semen from the bull. I think that's something, it's a sexual violation, if you will. Let's take a more judicious term, as opposed to the connotation for me of the word rape. Being a cunning linguist is to receive pleasure from the act of rape. So what do you think about them apples?
I think rape has been used in too many scenarios that aren't sexual for it to be limited to just sexual. But I get what you're saying.
Well, how about in prison? Having, of course, many years of prison experience personally myself. What's so funny? Just because I'm a white guy from Marin County, originally from Manhattan. Is that an act of love or power and domination? You didn't think we'd go here for this conversation, did you, sir? And I haven't written a song about this one yet.
It didn't take long, I'll tell you that much.
Well, you're using the word. I'm saying I'm being my little jocular, sarcastic approach, as Leo was pointing out about, farmers love their cows, sarcastic. And you're saying they rape the land, they rape the animals, they rape the environment. And, we're basically saying the same thing with our different styles.
Let me use a kinder word. They consume natural resources.
I prefer your other word.
But imagine, because you got here first, which of course first means ignoring the people that were here before you.
Right. They didn't get here first, in fact, as it turns out. Yeah, not even close.
But hey, because you got here before other white people got here, you have the right to just chop down the trees, chop up the coastal brush, steal all the water, and turn it into your own products, and then tell the world that they owe you for doing that.
Well, and to be fair, they weren't the first white people, as my understanding, and I'm not a historian, as Vikings were here far earlier, but they weren't farmers.
On the
They
West
didn't.
Coast too?
I thought so. I mean, well, you know what? I'm not an expert in this area. I want to do two other things. One is just a shout out to PhotoWix, which is Margot. I don't know if you want to use your name, but she's a powerful, kick-ass, take no prisoners, no fear activist with us elk folk and Point Reyes Seashore advocates. And she stood up in a room full of, mad cow diseased farmers who, just shouted her down and wouldn't even listen to her because they can't just even accept someone speaking truth, which is to say disagreeing with them and speaking truth to power. And I didn't have the courage to do it. I was in that room with Huffman's Town Hall on January 11th, I think it was. I wrote a long blog about it on my website, True Spirit Project. And it was kind of halfway to a mob where everyone was cowed into silence because there was no point. I mean, you weren't going to go. It was like at a MAGA rally, saying, "Oh, Donald Trump's a bad guy." It's not the place you're going to make any headway saying that. But Margot had the courage to do it anyway, just because she was compelled to do it. God bless her. And it wasn't violent, which was nice. But anyway, shout out to her. And then also, Leah, I think, is trying to get into comment. If you're willing to give a call-in link to her,
it's up. The call-in link is up. Just click that, and I would actually love to hear from Leah. I know that this topic. I don't know how am I going to word this. A woman was excited about the topic of rape.
Well, I'd love to. Actually, it would be really nice to have a woman's perspective on the use of that term in the industry. Indeed, yes. Whether she goes along with that usage or not.
I don't want to put words in her mouth, so I'm waiting. And be accurate. No Vikings on the West Coast. They landed in the Atlantic coast. Miwok and Native peoples have been here for over 30,000 years. Well, listen, to all the people that don't want to hear the message we're saying, you can just discredit us now because we had a debate about Vikings on the West Coast.
Not we, Jack. And Jack Cowshit said, "I think so, but I'm not positive." So I even covered my ass on that one. But more importantly, in that meeting, and to be specific about the issues we do know something about, ranchers are saying they're multi-generational. They've been there 3 generations. Someone's claim I read recently, I don't know if it's true, is 6 generations. I'll give them 6 generations, 150 years. Hi, Leah. We'll say hi to you in just a sec. I just want to finish my point. But of course, in the room were Coast Miwok representatives who've been there for, I don't know, hundreds of generations, thousands of years, as Margot is pointing out here in the chat. And it was fascinating to say, we've been on this land for so long and we have a connection to this land and to this way of life, and ignoring people who had so much more connection. It's laughable. I mean, that was just such cognitive dissonance to watch that and wanting to say something to it, but knowing the people in the room were going to listen to that because it was sensible and reasonable and truthful.
And I also, I'm sorry, Leah, but because of my bad memory, both of you, please remind me to circle back to see 10 seconds, and I already forgot. Never mind. Circle back to. I know one part from the bad journalism coming out is a journalist.
Circle back to that, maybe. Is that
oh my God. Wow.
Can I introduce Leah, please? May I introduce this young woman who's on the screen here now? This is Leah Wilborn. I met her through the elk activism. She was active in that movement in the park at Point Reyes Seashore, and is now the farmed animal campaigner, actually, for In Defense of Animals, an organization I, full disclosure, do some consulting work with. I think she's here representing herself, but I just wanted to give that much anyway. So she's a fiery, intelligent activist who's taught me a ton and holds kind of my feet to the fire to speak the truth and not pussyfoot around things, which I tend to. So I'm really curious to have her on the show and have her comment on this stuff, especially about the topic, the R word. Let's not say the word rape. Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, first of all, I just want to acknowledge you both as 2 men who have the guts to speak up honestly and truthfully and directly about the ethical issues of not just, of course, what animal farming, not agriculture. I really try to avoid using agriculture. It's just too nice. But what it's doing to the land and the planet, but also questioning and challenging the notion that it's perfectly normal and okay to exploit animals. Now, especially using the R word. As a woman, I'd just like to give my perspective on that. To me, and now I'm not a mother, okay, but the fundamental aspect of why I speak up against animal farming in general and all animal exploitation is this sexual violation and forcible impregnation, not just of mothers, by the way, not just of female animals, but of male animals too. They are ejaculated, okay, with machines to get them, okay, to get their semen. Then the female, let's just talk about cows. The female cows at as young as 1 year old are forcibly impregnated, quote, they like to say artificially inseminated. No, they're restrained. I want to speak to the women here who are watching and any of the men who, if you put your own mother, your own daughter in the same situation, they're animals, but they feel, okay? That's all that matters. They bond with their children. They have feelings. So as a woman, to see an innocent female animal being restrained, forcibly impregnated, I made this gesture because that's what really happens, okay? An entire arm goes into the cow's anus, okay? And then they impregnate her. She carries her babies for 9 months, just like a human mother. They take her babies, all of the male baby cows, basically large puppies, are slaughtered. So a lot of people don't realize this. And I'd just like to point out, there's nothing extreme about speaking up for these animals, about speaking up about the fact that, is this something that if this was happening in front of you, you would be okay with? If there was a little baby cow right now in front of any of you listening to this, would you be okay with somebody stabbing that little baby cow in front of you because you like the taste of cheese? Then, not to mention, stealing the milk that was meant for her baby, doing this to her over and over again. Cows are very maternal animals. They mourn for their stolen babies. They bellow out for weeks for their stolen babies. They try to chase after them, okay? After the cycle repeats over and over until the mother cow is so spent she's not producing enough milk for the ranchers to be profitable, what happens to her? She's also sent to the slaughterhouse. What could be more violent and what could be more of a desecration of the female reproductive system and of motherhood? So thanks for letting me say that. And thank you, men, for really representing the opposite of toxic masculinity. Okay.
Stick around
Yeah.
because I'm going to get really mean, and I know you like that. How many of you Homo sapiens with your superior intelligence are scrambling right now to try and justify what she just described? Yeah, that's what's really horrifying to me. Like, oh, well, their intelligence level and, oh, they don't care about their babies. Based on what information? That you want to keep buying milk? I mean, you didn't bother to look into it before you said that ridiculous horse shit. A cow could be the dumbest animal on the planet, which it's not, and it would still instinctively want its baby. And it definitely wants to feel the baby removing the milk from her. And the baby wants to feel the comfort of the mother and the comfort of the warm milk entering the baby. You know, I get really cold out there in Point Reyes. And I was thinking about how not only do those baby cows live in isolation pens where they're cold and don't have the heat of another living creature, much less their mother, they also don't even get to enjoy heat entering their body, you know, another comfort. And, you know, that morning before I went back out there and filmed them, I made hot coffee for myself. Not because I need it. I don't even nutritionally need it. But guess what? As a human being, it's something I enjoy and I get some comfort from. We can do something like that and then not even let a baby take milk from her mother. And when I say I'm going to be mean, all you people out there that want to make excuses and talk about, oh, this is fine. Like Leah said, go out there and do it to them yourselves. Yeah. But this takes me to the next level. They're the psychopaths who are in fact dairy ranchers do this. How messed up in the head are you to where you actually now are comfortable stealing babies, knowing that you're about to truck the males off to get killed as babies, and the females are going to spend their lives going through exactly the hell that Leah just described. And this creature that I'm going to put up on the screen is through marriage, a part of the Mendoza clan, Joylyn McClellan. And I'm putting your picture up there because you write in talking about how proud you are of your families and your family's history and their industry. You rape females for a living. You steal babies for a living, and you're a female. How do you do that? Even if cows are dumb, how do you do that to another female?
So I know you're asking that rhetorically, Skylar, but I'm going to jump in and say I can answer that question. Of course, it's something you're taught as a child, and I'm not excusing it, kids. It'd be interesting to hear you two fiery activists with what I'm going to say, but you're raised in a family that does these things as normal, just as I was conditioned to eat these products in the first place and not think about it. Or better yet, I was taught to judge hunters as cruel who go out and shoot Bambi in the forest. And then I went to, Walbaum's grocery store in upstate New York and bought my luncheon meats, which were animals who never were outside to enjoy a wildlife and then be killed quickly by a hunter's bullet, unnecessarily, I would still say, but they were tortured their entire lives. And here I am, this bleeding heart liberal, and I care about animals and I love animals. So it's cultural conditioning is horrific. And I'm not saying that's an excuse to continue doing it, of course. So your criticisms are valid, but to answer specifically, cultural conditioning is incredibly powerful. We know activists in our group who are advocating for removing cows from Point Reyes Seashore and for not fencing and killing elk or coyotes or in other areas of the West, bear and wolves and any other large predator who would threaten, God forbid, the money making behind raising cows for human consumption. Sorry, I can go on and on here with this, but it's the power of conditioning to not even think about these things. And then when you're challenged, like, don't make me think about this uncomfortable stuff. And it goes back to, in summary, what Leah was talking about is if slaughterhouses had glass walls, if people could actually see the process of mechanized mega death, they would be disgusted. A hunter who hunts deer would be disgusted at the inside of a slaughterhouse at how it works. And we three have all seen that footage. There's plenty of it to see if you're curious on YouTube for free to see how horrific it is. And then it comes down to, you look at that stuff, anybody, and tell me that that's fine to do. And then that comes the humane myth and the small farm where, oh no, that doesn't happen. And Leah can speak really eloquently about that stuff, where there's a myth that you can do this stuff on a small scale and that there's any humane way to slaughter an animal that has feelings just like your cat or dog does.
And you didn't even have to use that in your video. You didn't have to show that sort of horrific stuff. What you did capture is the expressionless faces. You just keep pumping out babies and having them stolen from you. I'm guessing that I would become expressionless too.
Yep. Yeah.
By the way, just let me say that footage was from a real dairy in the Midwest, and I just slowed the footage down and put the color overlay, and then with the right music and then the words. Their very own footage is itself damning.
My footage is from a real dairy in Point Reyes National Seashore.
Yeah.
Right. And it's as good as it gets, people. It's as good as it gets. It only becomes more horrific from there. And unfortunately, humans actually find comfort in that. I'm like, well, at least it's not a factory farm. I'm like, okay, well, pat yourselves on the back, superior species. You did as good as you could.
Oh boy, don't get me started on that whole thing.
Or the illusion that it's quote unquote just one bad day, which is a lie. It's not just one bad day. It's a bad life day after day.
It's a bad short life that's cut short, of course. But yeah, the demonizing factory farming is very convenient for people who want to keep eating animals, because we just say, oh yes, those factory farms out there, I don't have anything to do with that. That's wrong. That's obviously wrong. That's why I buy the small local, all the nice labels that make me feel better. Understandably, I did the same thing. I bought free range, cage-free eggs, right? Because I didn't want to look into any of it. But so it's all lies. Okay, the basis of all animal farming is exploitation and killing of innocent feeling animals who are no different from our dogs and cats in all the ways that matter. Okay, but in regards to, Jack, what you said about the conditioning, yes, I'd like to acknowledge, I think probably one of the main reasons that people don't change is just the social awkwardness of it. They think of their parents, their grandparents, who raised them to believe, good people, understandably, raised them to believe, my parents too, that eating animals is normal, natural, and necessary. I have a dear relative who, her uncle was very dear to her, and he was a dairy farmer. So when she hears me talking about how terrible the dairy industry, it's kind of like it's a personal insult in a way to her uncle, who was a wonderful man. But he was just doing what his parents did, what his all his generations did. So I understand we're not demonizing that all of us have been brainwashed, but that doesn't mean, just like everything in history that's been deemed wrong when we look back on it now. I mean, hello, we enslaved human beings for 400 years, and our excuses at the time were, well, we've always done it this way, and well, they're different, and
we treat them well.
Yeah, we treat them well. So that's the same logic that factory farms are bad, so small, local, organic, free range, humane must be good. Anyway.
And I call people monsters and psychopaths and stuff like that, and then I say, well, wait a minute, you participated in this.
Yeah.
But it's due to indoctrination. Mm-hmm. And as a human being, you have a responsibility to know things. It's a little bit silly that in this day and age, you can just be like, oh, but I didn't know.
Right.
Well, was it the animal's responsibility to come knock on your door and give you a pamphlet and learn your language and tell you about it? But I also had some help. It's not just the indoctrination. There's also some dishonesty involved, because I can remember being told that is a dairy cow. They produce milk, and that's a beef cow. I'm like, oh, wow, isn't that great? That thing just produces milk for no reason except for us to drink it.
And then lives a big, long life. And the truth is they're also killed young. Dairy cows are spent after 5, 6, 7 seasons of forcibly impregnated, taking the baby away, draining their milk, and then they're spent at a third of their lifespan, which is over 20 years, and then they're killed. So it's actually, I just want to drive the point home. So if you care about cows, if you care about animals, and I think anybody listening to this show, whether you're vegan or not, is someone who cares about animals, dairy products are more cruel than beef products. Dairy products are more cruel.
Because the dairy mothers suffer longer. They suffer longer.
And they die young anyway.
Yes.
So just take that one home.
Can I just interject now? I would just like to take this a step further, because Jack said, whether you're vegan or not, dairy is terrible. Yes, it is. I just want to expand that in everyone's consciousness, that it's a mindset that we can use animals however we want, because we have domination over them, because we're stronger, because we're, quote, the most intelligent species. But this expands to the egg industry too. They do the exact same thing. They kill all the male babies and their mothers, okay, of the mother hens. The mother hens in the egg industry are also all killed. So let's just, why not just say the truth about all of it instead of only focus? I'm not saying you guys are only focusing on dairy. And it's great that we are, because we are kind of knocking down the notion that vegetarian is this great wholesome thing. It's actually no different than being a meat eater, because so many vegetarians actually consume more dairy and eggs than even meat eaters. And all those animals are still slaughtered.
I'm sorry, say that again, Leah.
Yeah.
Just repeat. And by the way, Paula, thanks for stopping in. If you want to make a chat before you go, please do. But Lee, I just want to drive that point home. This is what I do, which is just repeat things that are super important, so they don't just scream by at too fast a pace.
Yeah, well, ultimately, and I was a vegetarian too before I went vegan. Most vegans are vegetarian first, and then they discover the truth of the dairy and egg industries. But if you're vegetarian for the animals, because you don't want to eat animals, because that's so terrible. I mean, we're pointing out now that all dairy cow mothers and their male babies, and all mother hens and their male babies are all killed in the dairy and egg industries, and usually vegetarians kind of try to make up for their lack of meat by eating more cheese and more eggs. So they can actually be consuming even more animal products than even meat eaters who have a steak a couple times a week and who don't like cheese or something. So it's really no different. Not to mention fish and marine animals too. Let's not leave them out.
Oh, and in that, I don't know if you heard the statistics I was quoting earlier, but in Marin's agricultural GDP, they get to include harvesting the ocean in that. So they're not even, not all of it is even based on land acreage. They get to have a little bonus added to that, and they still only came up with 35 million or 97 million or whatever out of 32 billion. But you know, for crazy people like us that actually are compassionate toward animals, I want everyone to understand that the reason I chose the cover that I did is that the rape of the animals is only one of the many factors. You know, you're scrambling to justify this and say, okay, you people are just giving animals too much credit. You know, you're a little bit crazy. Okay, where is your desire to improve as a Homo sapien? Where is your desire to look for the best possible way to do things or produce food while not hurting the planet? Because this is an astounding way to hurt the planet while producing little. And as I said, raping the taxpayer. It takes so much from the earth. It hurts the earth so badly. Yeah. It costs so much from the government to subsidize this industry just to keep it afloat. And it's still not helping the economy. And you still have
I have a statistic about the subsidies. I don't want to interrupt. Keep going, but I have a really powerful statistic for people.
And after all that, you still have the animal abuse.
Yeah.
And you know, Jack, you said, well, you know, one of you said, you know, the mother cow's life sucks the whole time and then she dies, so she has the worst existence. People will turn around and say, oh, the farmers are giving them a great life because they're protected and, you know, they're fed and, you know, they milk them. And I often think about how much a farm animal would prefer to die the way that a wild animal does. You know, I understand that the end might be violent. You get taken down by a wolf or something. At least you were alive before that. And at least you were living the life you wanted to live before it. Not a prisoner. Not a prisoner enduring things being done to you by another species while in captivity, while telling the world that you're giving that animal a great life.
Yeah. Margot brings up, so people who have pet cats and dogs are supporting the big ag abuse and the brutality of cows and chickens. And that's, you know, she used the word, I think earlier in a chat comment, hierarchy, where we're taught in this country to love cats and dogs and horses. And I don't know, a parrot, there's a few other animals that are pets, and then everything else is just discounted. And again, more cultural conditioning. It's just what we're taught. In other countries, you can eat dog, or I think certain species of dog in Korea, I think in China, certain species are pets and certain species are to be eaten. And it's all ridiculously arbitrary. And to Skylar's point, and I do want to get back to the whole topic of masculinity, of what we're taught to feel, or in the case of, I can only speak to American culture, the one I was raised in, taught to not feel, to be a man, suck it up, don't cry, hide your feelings. They're there, don't do that. Whereas girls are not encouraged to not cry and not have feelings, thank God. Although, of course, you know, once you rise to the top of society or in government, then you're also taught as a woman not to have feelings and to be too emotional or hysterical, right? So, I mean, women, of course, are figuratively screwed in every way. If they're too emotional or not emotional enough, like being too attractive or not attractive enough, women certainly have it harder, despite what the orange one would say. But
I think,
sorry.
I think you guys will both, Leah, I know you're a big fan of Elwood's.
Yes.
So I put this comment up. a big part of the problem of ignoring the abuse is our hierarchy of animals. If anyone did something like this to dogs and cats,
Exactly.
we would be in an uproar. Now,
Exactly.
not to overcomplicate this, but that's not even really true anymore. You'll find a way to justify. People don't treat dogs very well.
No, they don't.
Oh, nice shirt.
Yeah.
Even people who call themselves good dog owners are pretty disconnected from what their dog's needs are. And again, if you go to another country, suddenly it's fine to do that to a dog.
Yeah, I almost wore that Elwood's Organic Dog Meat t-shirt today too, Jack. Yeah.
I had that one. It wore out.
I remember
It wore
you
out.
wearing
We
that.
do dog right.
We do dog
We
right.
love our animals. We love our dog. It's good taste in dog.
And also,
too.
I'd like to point out too that those who have dogs and cats, if you have a dog, you're feeding the body parts to the dog because you think that dog needs it. Actually, it's now been scientifically proven for all those out there, dogs are omnivores, just like humans are basically herbivores, but they can eat other animals, but they don't have to. They can survive and thrive on plant-based dog food. So there's a great brand called V-Dog out there, but there's many different plant-based dog foods out there. So that's a whole other subject too.
Oh, interesting. Here's a comment from Switzerland. Cultural conditioning is the convincing excuse to not want to know because, yes, we always did it that way. And that's from apparently a book or play called The Lottery by Shirley Jackson.
I love that comment. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, and we could go a lot of ways with that because how about how often the term multi-generational is used? Oh, multi-generational families are losing their homes. Multi-generational.
Every family is multi-generational.
Yeah, somebody tell me one that wasn't.
Family goes back generations too.
The Miwok were multi-generational
Yes.
before they got wiped out by the people that we're celebrating now.
Giant Tyson Foods is a family farm.
Right.
Tyson's a family.
Yeah. Multi-generational rapists.
So this is my old profession where I first met Stephen Axelrod in 1912, I think it was, right, Stephen? Which is advertising. Advertising. You drop your voice and do advertising. Real chocolatey goodness. You know what that means? No fucking chocolate.
What was the statistic you wanted to provide, Leah?
Oh yeah, on the subsidies. So how backwards and warped it all is that the Environmental Working Group, y'all can look this up, did a huge peer-reviewed study to find out the statistics for subsidies that go to animal agribusiness versus subsidies, meaning our tax dollars, that go to plant crops, right? For foods that humans can eat directly.
Broccoli.
Plant-based proteins, plant crops for humans directly. But $60 billion since 1995 has gone to animal agribusiness. And since 2001, 127 million to plant-based products and proteins and farming. So the farmers, the good farmers out there who are actually raising crops to feed directly to humans are not being rewarded with these huge subsidies that all us taxpayers are paying for. It's insane. Not to mention that eating animal products has now been shown to increase everyone's risk of the top diseases, including cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. Not to mention that dairy, I think it's between 60 and 70% of the world's population is lactose intolerant. So there's a wonderful plant-based doctor named Dr. Milton Mills. He's African-American, and he does a lot of talks about the racism of dairy because it's pushed in hospitals, in schools. Come on, you need your dairy for calcium. Meanwhile, Black people, Native Americans, Asian descent folk, I mean, they're all, it's completely antithetical to their bodies. They react adversely. So they're being taught to eat these products that for a majority of the population is going to hurt them.
Well, guess what? It used to hurt us too.
Sure.
We developed a tolerance to it in Europe. It was the monks. The monks were trying to figure out a way to curb their hunger pains with the development of cheese. And when I got off of dairy, non-vegan for non-vegan reasons, but just because like milk is expensive and it goes bad really fast, and I didn't need it.
Those reasons.
I tried to go. Yeah, the reasons.
All those reasons.
All those stupid.
but it was a habit. It was your habit. It was your family.
Exactly.
Oh.
Those non-compassion reasons. Stupid, compassionate people. When I tried to go back, I would have reactions.
Yeah.
The tolerance had gone away, and I got to wonder what percent of baby diarrhea and poor baby terrible diapers is because you're forcing them to eat something they shouldn't be.
Yeah. I had an allergy test done, and it was oh my God, I'm allergic to dairy. After being raised on yogurt. Yogurt was my favorite thing. My British mother, they have bottles of milk delivered onto everyone's porch, at least back in the day when I was there. But
so I just want to add a fourth to it. I mean, it's kind of why I'm calm when I discuss, eating plants versus eating animals with people. I don't get all worked up at it because the arguments are so incredibly overwhelming and compelling. And we've touched on each one. Environmental degradation of eating animals, health reasons to not eat animals. You don't need them to be healthy. And the three of us don't eat animal products, and we're all very healthy people in our more than 40s. Ethical, of course, if you look at how the stuff is made, it's completely disturbing and upsetting to anybody. If you look behind the closed doors inside the slaughterhouses. And then the fourth is the advertising. You are being lied to and misled to eat this stuff. So you're a sap. You're a sucker. You are being duped by the regenerative ranching folks and organic small farms nonsense. I should challenge myself to do a George Carlin quality comedy routine on all the terminology that's used to get people to eat this crap. When God, there's so much information out there about how you don't need it and you're being fooled. So 4 huge compelling.
There's another, I have a fifth one or a
Go
sixth
for
one. World hunger. Let's take the Amazon, for instance. The majority of the Amazon rainforest has been destroyed to graze the land so that animals can, so to grow crops to feed to animals and to have grass-fed beef, right, on this land in order to sell to the West, to feed to us. Meanwhile, there's all these starving people, around the world. That land could have been used to grow crops to feed directly to humans. So instead, these vast amounts of crops are being grown to feed to animals, to feed to us, instead of just cutting out the middleman, which is the animal, and feeding those crops directly to us could solve world hunger.
Yes. And I'm sorry, I really don't have ADD. I just like bouncing around on different topics, which means I'm ADD. But Ray Cooper brings up a point that I wanted to make, and he's done it here. Animal ag has flipped the narrative of manhood. Those of us who have power are morally obliged to use that power to protect those who cannot defend themselves.
Amen.
And for me, that's genuine masculinity, which is you have power to speak the truth and to defend the defenseless, or in the case of animals, the voiceless. As opposed to earlier, there was Paula made a comment about controlling animals. And if you're abused yourself, if you don't deal with that abuse and feel it, you will pass on the abuse multi-generationally through your family, whether it's to other child. If you were beaten yourself as a child and you don't deal with that, you will be likely a beater of your own children, or in the case of animals, controlling and killing and shut down your feelings because you're not dealing with your own trauma, your own anger, your own hurt, your own pain. When to be, in my opinion, as I've gotten older, to be a real man is to allow yourself to feel the things I didn't want to feel and was taught not to feel as a kid. And cry or not, it doesn't matter. Of course, do real men cry and all that nonsense culturally, but it's certainly to use your voice and truth and your power and your strength to speak the truth and to defend those who can't defend themselves, to protect the weak and vulnerable.
And dominion, the Bible is used so often. Ugh. Well, God said we have dominion. Okay, but how do we interpret the word dominion? Yep. Dominion can mean we have the power to dominate. Yes, we do. So that automatically means might makes right? No, because we've used that as justification to oppress other humans because they were different. So there's two aspects, right? There's one side that says, the male species and all men are here to dominate. Really? Is that really the strongest way to be as a woman? I see the most manly aspects for me is someone who protects the innocent, defends the vulnerable, isn't bullying innocent, defenseless beings who can't defend themselves. To me, that's the opposite of real masculinity.
And dominion is the word used, which is subject to interpretation. I frankly don't care what the Bible says. I mean, it's an interesting story, but it's not the word of God. So obviously,
Yeah.
Oops, did I say that? And it's not using the word dominate anyway. So another interpretation of dominion is you have control over, and you can choose what to do with that power, that control. We certainly do have power over animals, but it doesn't mean we have to harm them or dominate them.
I think once you become comfortable in yourself, you can understand that treating other things poorly isn't true masculinity, and it's not fulfilling. You know, when you try, there's a stage in life, or at least I went through the stage in life where my instincts were suppressed. My instincts of compassion for animals were suppressed in order to fit in with the other indoctrinated males that said, no, this is how you treat things, because that, you know, it's stupid to have compassion for them and we're better than them. And actually it shows that you're a man if you're willing to be cruel to things. And it's so much more fulfilling to be kind to things. And being abusive is easy. You know, that's not really anything to be proud of. Walking amongst other creatures, I would think would be argued pretty impressive. I think that's a dream of mine. I was just like, I'd rather just be out there as a peer with those predators rather than trying to kill the predators. You know, all you hunters that shoot wolves from half a mile away with your scope. Well, have you gone free diving with great white sharks like I have? Okay. I think my balls are bigger than your cowardly murder of other animals from a long distance that makes you feel better as a man.
Uh-oh, you've whipped out the bigger balls argument, Skylar. Go for it. And Ray Cooper makes he's really on fire today or this morning with these comments. In other words, animal agriculture is based on the exploitation of defenseless and innocent animals.
What I say in all my talks, and I just said that in our webinar.
Yeah, I know. Ray said it really compactly, and he even says, I urge anyone to listen to the first 5 minutes of George Orwell's Animal Farm. There's an audiobook written in 1945. And I have that book by my bedside now, along with 1984, the other Orwellian book that is, prescient today. Yes, Ray. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Amen.
And, you know, I often criticize us for going vegan in the show, but I'm just going to show why there's more to it than that. Can you guys see that screenshot?
Yeah, read it, would you? Because your head.
Yeah, I'm sorry that my face is in there. I took it from the presentation. So U.S. Subsidies equal 73% of consumer returns. Like, we have to hear these people in Marin County talk about how the economy is going to suffer without things. When subsidies equal 73% of the consumer returns? What?
Yeah.
Can I have a dairy person call in? Can someone please tell me with their own words exactly how you come to the conclusion that this is a sustainable business?
Well, look at my hat here. I freaking love cows, okay? So I can be the dairyman if you want. And I raise local food and contribute to the local economy and create jobs with good, wholesome, nutritious food for my family. So I deserve a little support from the government. There's the argument. Go get it.
Profit and livelihood, no matter how much profit something brings you, that is no justification for destroying the planet and inflicting violence on innocent beings.
God bless you, my child. You're actually taking on the challenge.
I want people to also understand that a big part of the subsidies actually go into the marketing campaign. It's not just the production of the product, but it also goes into the marketing campaign. And then Big Ag actually uses their own money for their own campaigns. You know, a lot of the lies that you have come to believe, well, you came to believe them because of an active campaign.
While you have the word regenerative ranching up there, by the way, I just want to pick on it. It claims to reduce carbon emissions by stimulating grass growth, spreading it out over more land. Oh, by the way, more land. So that's a problem right there. But take them at their word that there's some reduction of carbon emissions by stimulating more grass growth and not beating up the land as much as we see at Point Reyes Seashore, they don't mention methane emissions from the cows in regenerative ranching, rotational grazing, holistic management, all these bullshit terms. It's all bullshit advertising. It's still wildly a generator of greenhouse gases, more methane and nitrous oxide as opposed to just carbon. But it's a total freaking scam. And of course, the entire industry and the media jump on it because they want to prop up the existing industry and not say, hey, we need to stop eating meat and dairy.
And we even had a campaign up in Sonoma County, the Measure J campaign, and they, it was all against factory farming. And one of the arguments they used was factory farming is also terrible for the environment. Okay, what's the alternative? They weren't saying to just, the best solution would be to stop buying animal products. It was
all animal
small
farming.
Farms. It was small. Let me just finish. It was small farms. They were advocating for small farms are okay, right? But if everybody switched to small, local, organic, grass-fed beef, there would be no land left on the planet. So that kind of farming takes up even more land. And I think that's what people don't realize. And Jack was kind of pointing out here.
I was amazed how quickly when grass-fed and regenerative ranching was the big thing that instantly in the stores, I was seeing that everything had grass-fed label on it. I'm like, is this even true? I mean, and then the dog food said grass-fed, and the beef jerky said grass-fed. I'm like, huh.
Yeah. Well, to answer your question, some of it might be true. It's not defined by the USDA how much grass they have to be fed for how long to be grass-fed, and there's no regulation, there's no oversight, there's no enforcement, there's no penalty. So and that goes for the term natural. For small, Margot's writing into definitions of USDA small, those things are not reinforced. And of course, when you gut the government, the regulatory body that tries to keep some of the corporations a little bit in check, then you completely disempower any regulation whatsoever. And they just going to lie, as they're doing now all the time, left and right. It's all really almost all. I hesitate to say all literally, but literally all.
Leah just wrote a great piece, and she included a lot of these terms that are used and points out next to each of them whether or not there's a real definition or what that definition is, and then there's another list that says they don't even bother defining it at all. It's whatever you want to believe it means.
Well, naturally, that one.
I wonder if we could have Leah on just to interview her about that in like 2 weeks.
For humane washing, would it be the topic?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure, absolutely.
So we've come up on the 10 o'clock hour. Whether we're going to continue or not is another matter. But treespiritproject.com/humane washing /regenerative BS. All this stuff is written on my website.
Jack has a great page about it too. And Skylar's done so many videos on humane washing too. Yeah.
I want to shoot through a few graphics because we really wanted to rip on the Marin County mourning of losing these dairies. And so this graphic on the screen again is from the presentation I did that revealed that 50% of the Marin County's acreage produced 0.3% of the GDP. I mean, come on, people. That is a lot of land to produce 0.3% of the GDP.
That's a great slide. I would add the word Marin to it, but that's really great to write down in words so people can see it and grok it. Really good.
And what you see behind there, in addition to my face, is the horror of dairy. And here it comes. Okay, that's not Point Reyes. That's right outside of Point Reyes National Seashore. This is what the rest of Marin County looks like. That's about 71 babies recently taken from their mothers. Notice there are no mothers next to them. But also look at the land.
Yeah.
Do people think that that's really what Marin County looked like before it was, as I say, raped by these multi-generational rapists? And I've got another drone shot of that same. I think this is a Grossi family ranch.
Family.
No, that's their name. That's their family name.
I know. I'm just laughing. It's family. Oh, it's nice. It's a family farm.
Yeah. Just put family in front of anything and
put family in front of anything.
Better.
Yeah. It's a family prison.
Yeah.
It's a family human abattoir.
That mother and that baby were families too.
Hey, everyone. This is what your Measure A funds provide.
Yeah.
Go hiking through there. Oh, wait, you're not allowed to.
Do you remember offhand, Skyward, your source for the stats of 50%
Oh, yeah.
of Marin counties?
Yeah, and better yet, go watch the 2-part series. I'll put the link up.
Put the link up. Thank you.
Here, let me see if one of my screenshots shows the source. But you guys keep talking.
Of sustaining stupidity?
Yeah, Sustaining
Two-parter?
Stupidity
Yeah.
Part 1 and 2.
Great, yeah. And then for anyone who loves music videos, as we saw Jack's wonderful Mad World one at the beginning here, I want to reiterate, just go on YouTube and search Point Reyes the Fence. That's Skylar's fantastic, he uses Pink Floyd to really illustrate this.
That is a masterful, artful
Beautiful.
video. It truly is. Yeah.
The call-in link is up. I felt like today would be a good call-in day. But so far it's just.
Yeah, pardon. I didn't even need to stay on this whole time. I hope I
That's
didn't
right.
take over.
We like.
Glad to have you.
Thanks.
You know, I wanted to talk about the bad journalism, but just one tiny piece out of it was noticing that once again, this guy who's been cranking out, what's his name, Jack? He's been
John Beck of the Press Democrat.
Yeah, he's been cranking out a lot of crap, and he incorrectly, once again, just like the Marin Independent Journal and the Point Reyes Light pointed out, that this is why McClure had to shut down his dairy in 2021. Hey, journalist, if he shut down his operation in 2021, how is he getting a buyout in 2025?
Well, you know, it's funny you say that. I just read a long letter by the brilliant Jim Coda, retired Park Service attorney, all about that. And I've got notes here as well. But the short story is he said he was closing down his dairy, and then that gave the implication, as you're commenting, the reporter said, oh, he's closed. Well, no, he's still not closed. He wasn't closed for more than 3 years hence. And he hung out and hung in with non-dairy cows. He brought in other cows to keep on the land, keep making a little bit of money, waiting for the buyout.
Yeah.
Right.
Waiting for the
That's what is that proven? Because that's exactly what I thought. It was like they gave him some inside information. They're like, hey, just hang in there a little bit longer and you're going to get a sweet deal.
Proven is a tricky word. It's sort of like what's inside Trump's head. To get proven, you'd have to talk to Bob McClure, and he's not going to tell you that. You can only judge by what he did, the amount of money he wasn't making. Of course, you know, that picture there is pretty much, you might as well be showing his ranch, McClure's, which is I Ranch in Point Reyes Seashore, just past Abbott's Lagoon, which he pollutes with his dairies when it was operational. But he also drained the water table. He sucked the land dry. But they get these incredibly cheap deals for thousands of acres for just a few $1,000s for the price of a 1-bedroom apartment. And then he gets to run his animals for pennies on the dollar. I mean, the subsidies are just absurd, left and right, all while they cry poverty, oh, poor us poor hardworking dairies who are subsidized by the public, unbeknownst to them.
And, you know, when they say the drought caused him to shut down, I'm surprised they didn't say that the activists caused him to shut down. But the drought didn't just miraculously happen. You know, these people who are suffering from the drought are also big causers of the increasing symptoms of the drought. And even in that drought, you guys know, Jack, you know, because we were out there suffering in this weather with those elk, watching the elk die of thirst while the farmers were complaining about a drought, while their cows were drinking 50 gallons of water per day each. And then when they ran out of the water locally to steal again from the earth, then it started getting trucked in. And guess what? California fit a lot of the bill covering drought or natural disaster issues such as that. Trucking in water because you already depleted the water source. Well, let's continue to help these people because they're so great. As the Mendoza said, we're loyal. We've
and then also trucking in food and then trucking out the milk. I mean, it's to use the word I always use and will continue to use repeatedly to drive it home, an extractive industry.
Oh, and after all those trucks go in and out of there, then we, the taxpayers, will fit the bill for the damage to the roads in the national park.
Right, and pay for the maintenance of these ranches, which are anyway. It's just I've got to.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen. I have to go, but thank you so much for doing this and speaking up the way you do. And we have to change the narrative. So this is part of it. The narrative being that ranchers and farmers who exploit and kill animals are somehow the real good people because they're feeding the world. That couldn't be more warped, really, because we can feed the world with plants. We don't need to do this to our planet and to other animals. So.
Thanks for stopping by the Cow Rapist Corner, Leah. Nice to have you.
Thanks, Leah.
See you next time. Okay.
And I just want to one more comment from Margot, which sums up a bunch of it. So the park activists, which is us folks, were never the cause of dairy closures at Point Reyes Seashore. McClure's iRanch closed because of the cost of feed and water, yet he kept workers on the land for rentals, meaning he was renting his properties to them or docking their pay for the rental properties and actually turning a profit, illegally subletting to undocumented workers who are victims themselves. I'm not blaming the workers. They look for work where they can get it, like migrant workers picking vegetables in the Central Valley. But it was Bob McClure, very likely, I don't have proof of this, but the numbers are the numbers, was turning a profit, subleasing his properties illegally to people who weren't even working on the land. There were ranch families as well as the few ranch workers who were working on the land. A few dozen people, not 80, 90. Now it's up to 180 in the press. Millions of people, all these poor workers are being housed for cheap in Marin County, thanks to the wonderful, hardworking ranchers. All complete nonsense narrative, the opposite of the truth.
I'm trying to get that thing off the screen. I put that up there because someone asked for my source, and it was the University of California Cooperative Extension, Marin County, who put out that publication. And they thought, funny enough, they thought that they were saying something nice, like, oh, farmers are so important. They use 50% of the county. Thank you for doing my research for me.
Yeah, indeed. Right. Damning themselves, not even trying to. So should we wrap it up, Skylar, for today? We've gone an hour and 15.
Yeah. And I think we got to talk about the abused workers again next week, because I've got a lot more to say on that.
Actually, you know who we have next week? A special guest.
Who?
Laura Cunningham of Western Watersheds Project, ecologist and all-around wonderful person who has taught us both a ton. I know you've interviewed her extensively. Laura Cunningham of Western Watersheds Project, one of the 3 environmental groups that was involved in the recent lawsuit that reached a negotiated settlement to oust cows and free elk at Point Reyes Seashore. So very knowledgeable. I think she's relatively unmuzzled now and can speak because the litigation is closed.
That is, wow. I'll be here for that one.
Well, that'll work out well.
Jack, I think I'll close playing your video again.
Which one? That one.
This one. Thanks, everybody, for stopping in. We will see you next week with Laura Cunningham, and 2 weeks after that with Leah.
Every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out spaces, worn out faces, bright and early for our daily paces, going nowhere, going nowhere. Our milk is filling up their glasses, no expression, no expression. Hang my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The cream for which I'm dying is the best you've ever had. I find it hard to sell you, I find it hard to make. For mothers at the dairy, it's a very, very sad world. Sad world. day they feel good. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Don't live a life that every child should, taken from us. Ignore our faults. Boys without milk, they are very nervous. No use for them, abuse for them. Mr. Farmer, tell me, where's my baby? Looks right through me, looks right through me. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The cream for which I'm dying is the best you've ever had. I find it hard to sell you, I find it hard to make. For mothers at the day